Well, you're tuned in once again and watching Night Sounds. Barry Funkhouser here with Josh. Hey, Josh.
What's happening, man? I'm very excited about today's segments. The fact you brought segments today with guests, and we're diving deep into somewhat serious conversations that I'm sure will turn comedic. Because
Serious.
because I really can't help myself. I'm
Why
excited.
did this come up? We were talking about there was a mushroom story that came up the other day with us,
Right.
right? What
Yeah,
was
well,
it? Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember some gosh, there was some
Oh, the AI thing. It was
yes,
yeah,
the
there was a
AI
book that
for
came out.
That's right, the cookbook thing. Like, we were trying to discuss if AI wrote it, and then it turns out that it's not proofread, and if you wind up following what technology is telling you to do, you're probably gonna murder half the country, if they eat it or smoke it or ingest it at some point. So, yeah, this seems like it'd be pretty the fact that you jumped on top of this thing like some CNN reporter, investigative journalist that you are, we've got questions.
I've got friends in southern places, so let's bring in some guests down below. First up, it's Kevin, the wildlife biologist. Hi, Kev.
Hi, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Oh man, I
Just
got so many questions for you about birds. And then
birds.
Okay.
let's bring on
Mushrooms and birds.
let's bring on our other guy, Farm Boy Slim, is on the horn. There he is, right
Uh-oh,
there.
What's good?
DJ, you need those horns. Beep, 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 beep.
All right, so Kevin, you're a wildlife biologist. You're centered in Southern California. You're also a beekeeper. We are beekeeping buddies, and every time we go out on the out there in the bee yard, there's always some other wildlife that happens. And Kevin, you always know the scientific names of the bushes with the pretty flowers on it, and something flies by, you're like, "Oh, that's a native blobbly-blook." So I would like you to tell us why you're so smart at wildlife, please.
It's a matter of passion. Do what you love, and I've always wanted to learn and have a quest for knowledge. I grew up, with a family that always took me camping, and I did Boy Scouts, did a lot of backpacking, and I think it's kind of just how I was raised.
Yeah, but you went to school for it too, right? You spent years sitting there learning.
Yeah, actually, I think I've talked with you previous podcasts that I was actually a college dropout for quite a long time, and I just didn't want to, work in a cubicle for the rest of my life, which was the situation I found myself in. So I went back to school and followed biology, and it kind of just landed me where I am today, just through a rare number of circumstances. And really, I found out that there's not a lot of people doing the things that I'm doing, and that there's an opening and a niche there, and there's a lot of adventure to be had outside. And it's like, we all live in Southern California, we all know the beach, but it's like none of us know what's around us. And there's a lot of little secret hidden gems here and there. Everything from rare plants and animals that people aren't even sure if they're endangered or not. And I'm kind of on a quest to find that out.
Trying to find out if certain birds are endangered or not. Is that what you're
Oh
saying?
yeah, just an abundance of knowledge of what things are, but a lack of research on things. And it's like, okay, this is new territory. Being an explorer and an academic is going to take you places, if you have the tools to do it.
So did you
Yeah,
wind
man.
up did you wind up landing on this type of new career path by maybe because when you were a kid and you were consistently going on these camping trips that, did you really have to sit down and think to yourself, you know what? I like that so much as a kid. If I can make some money on doing something that I used to love back then, this is something I want to do now. Is that kind of how that all came about?
In terms of bird watching, actually, yes, because my parents would drag me out doing bird watching too, not just the camping. And I'd be in the back playing my Game Boy, and they'd be like, look, there's a cardinal or there's a dark-eyed junco. And I'd look up and be like, okay. And that kind of stuck. And then I found out that being a wildlife biologist wasn't just a thing that 6 people at National Geographic get to do, and there's actual good money in doing it, and you're doing important work, protecting the environment. And I can't think of something else that's more noble to do.
It sounds
Yeah.
very California esque, let's save the environment. Let's do it. Not a lot here where I'm at in Texas, except if you're going to kill an animal, then that's pretty big. But actually protecting it, I've always, I have a little nephew now who is fascinated by birds. He loves because where he lives in the backyard is a green belt. So we were playing in the backyard with the dog one day, and we heard, which I was absolutely convinced was an alien coming to abduct us. And it was this very weird sound, this clicking noise, and it seemed to it echoed back and forth. Well, it freaked both my nephew and I out. Well, one day, my brother and I went back out before we discovered it was this monstrous owl. And there's a family of owls that live in this green belt that come by, but this clicking sound, and I guess with the apartment complex in the back, it is the freakiest sound ever. So the fact that you say you do stuff like that, God, you just must have so many different stories when it comes to different animals, well, specifically birds and sounds they make and whistles and things of that nature. Do you get a chance to talk to younger kids about things like that there in California?
Yes. One of the things that I do actually is volunteer and do a lot of educational work. I volunteer at Cal State University Channel Islands, and I participate in the beekeeping program there. But in addition, it also accounts for a lot of our pollinators. Hummingbirds are a big, section of our pollinators, especially here in Southern California. And there's a lot of crossover there. I do love teaching, not just beekeeping, but also, if anybody's gonna listen to me, even if I'm on a date, I'm gonna tell that girl what birds are around us when we're on that hike, up Solstice Canyon.
Yes.
Yeah, he will.
Part of your skill there, Kevin.
Whether they like it or not.
Whether they like it or
Oh, that's the bush tit cock thistle over there.
not.
Those are both real birds.
Yeah, well, I'm learning.
I think you can get away with it. I think you can get away with it. All right. Well, let's take a quick break right now on Night Sounds. And when we come back, we're going to learn all about the other guy, Farm Boy Slim.